I'm curious what it's like teaching podcasts to people who are like, who understand the podcast as a medium probably much more than your average like person who's 10 years older.
That's the hardest thing about teaching podcasting. Literally right now on Airfest, which they call it like the Sundance of podcasting. Like it's very artsy, but there's a business summit that happens the day before, and the entire summit was about YouTube and video podcasting. And I'm like, that's not what podcasting is. You just fell for what tech companies are trying to do. You fell for Spotify for their 10x return on their business, for their bottom line. Yeah. They're single white femaling YouTube, and you fell for it. So the thing that I'm trying to get across to everyone, not only these undergrads, is like, podcasting, you know what podcasting is. But when I mean podcasting and the skills I'm trying to teach you is audio storytelling.
Because they might think it's video first, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And I have no problem with video podcasting. I think it's essential for the internet that we currently live in. I think that video clips, like the ones you put on Reels and on TikTok, that we have really, really good editors at Multitude to do because they're incredibly talented. And it's a whole other skill set. It is an extension of the thing that podcasting does the best, which is word of mouth, recommending a show to someone else. Just send them the clip and be like, this is the show I was telling you about. And now you have this little taste of what you're going to enjoy.
Wait, I want to talk about video podcasting for a second. So this podcast is video right now. Shout out to you, the listener, who might also be the watcher watching this on YouTube right now.
However you consume is fine. You're valid. Again, it's not about much like the bagel. It's not about the user. You do you. Well, so, you do you with what you have.
So you are an audio guy. All the podcasts you guys do are audio. You do release some video clips. On a recent episode of Attach Your Resume, you guys kind of ripped into the idea of a video podcast in the same way you just did, where it's like, it's a different thing, different medium, which I agree. You also wrote a piece about this for the Multitude blog in January, which I'll read one little quote from here, and then you can speak on it. Honestly, I don't want to be a YouTuber. That's why I became a podcaster. We do record video for some shows at Multitude, but only for clips that we share on social media. Releasing the full video of a podcast recording feels like encroaching on a different medium, a medium I never wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
The one other thing I'll say is around that same time, you recorded a video. You recorded the intro for one of your interviews, and you did 2 takes. It's a video titled "Audio is Different from Video," so we filmed our audio recording to show you. And I'm going to call bullshit on that one a little bit because you guys purposefully half-assed it. You've got the nice studio. You're in it right now, and look, you show up and you make the point of like you forgot it was video, so you're dressed for dressed for the gym. And it's not lit well. So I think you're making a point of
I see what you're saying, but I also want to push back and say I did not half-ass it. I 100% forgot we were doing this. And I was dressed for the gym. I was also showing how we usually record stuff.
Yes.
And we were recording, I'm on the video set that
you're showing
we have
this,
specifically.
Right now you are, but that was like how you would record an audio.
That is where we usually record the intros of these 2. And it was important that we did 2 back to back because it's like something that comes out as 7 minutes of audio was like a 20-minute video.
Yeah.
That's more what you're 100% correct. I look much better now than I did in the thing that I did in that article, but I was more showing what we usually look like when we record these.
You're showing the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah. And which, I mean, when I do a call for work and it's like a Google Meet and I'm like sitting where I'm sitting right now versus when it's, just a phone call and I'm pacing up and down the length of my apartment, it's different. It's a different vibe. And honestly, I probably get more crazy in the zone focused when I'm not, because right now I'm looking at you, but I'm also looking at my face and seeing 100%. Myself talk because I'm vain.
I keep looking at Gobbles behind me.
Yeah.
My main man Gobbles, so, the turkey Beanie Baby that my mom bought for Thanksgiving 15 years ago, and she bequeathed to me because we hosted Thanksgiving.
That's an old turkey. I can't believe you haven't used it for Thanksgiving, eaten it for Thanksgiving.
No, he sits on the table every time. We pardon him every single year.
That's good. Okay. You kind of already answered this, but I do want to ask one more of the questions that you always ask on your show, which is how do you describe your job?
Let me say more about the thing that you meant, because I derailed us by talking about Gobbles.
Go ahead.
That's my fault. I have a lot of respect for video creators.
Yeah.
Not only social media creators. When I went to college, I was put on the freshman floor of Bohemians and Rebels. It was like this specialized thing. NYU, baby. That's what we do. But it's just like, it was just a freshman grouping thing. And I ended up being on a floor with a lot of people who were in Tisch, which is the film and acting school.
Well, this is
at
too,
NYU.
sorry to interrupt, now I'm interrupting you, but like when you say that, and I think of my college experience where I studied rhetoric and media, and I was kind of more on the media criticism side of it. But the film, in as much as we had a film program, it was also part of that. And what you were just saying about at Stony Brook, the podcast program being part of the film program, it's like these
It's
things
also
are always just meshed together as like media.
NYU specifically really divides it out because it's like NYU and lots of people like only donating to the specific schools they were a part of. Like I was in the College of Arts and Science that was like just all the other majors they do at regular schools that no one cared about. But all my friends were in Tisch and they were film majors. And like I know because I've been on their sets and I've seen them work and all this stuff. And I still have friends who work in the film industry, both in the digital side and in the movies film industry and the TV's film industry. I know how hard it is. Amanda, our CEO, was a teenage YouTuber and she has a lot of YouTube friends. I know how hard it goes into. I know all the work that goes into actually making video. That's why all of the most popular YouTubers now make documentary length videos and release them once a year. Bomber Guy and Defunct Land. Like that's their whole strategy and their Patreon support it. I know how much work goes into it. I do not know how to do it. Amanda set this whole thing up for me and I know audio and I understand that they're two mediums and Spotify is trying to convince YouTubers, not podcasters. They're convincing YouTubers to upload their videos on Spotify and get it off the RSS feed so they can own the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Podcasters, they don't care anymore. They squeezed as much out of podcasting as possible over the last few years by acquiring all those companies in 2018, 2019, like Gimlet and The Ringer and what became Megaphone and Anchor and
where you
Anchor,
used to work a decade ago.
where
right?
I used to work when it was still Audio Twitter. I used to work there. And give Joe Rogan and Call Her Daddy all this money. And then they're like, nah, that's actually not 10x enough for us. Yeah. So then now they're like, who cares? And podcasters are getting caught in the crossfire and the actual medium is getting hollowed out from the inside by Spotify trying to pivot everyone's thought to think podcast means video, which is insane.
Yeah, which I mean, a big part of that too is the clip industrial complex, right? And like the ads that look like a podcast, but they're not. Do you think this is a battle that can be won? Like you're talking to your students who think a podcast is video. Like in 10 years, is the audio only podcast something quaint?
I don't know. I think maybe I don't think of it even on those on that scale.
Yeah, well,
because it's like, well, we won. They wanted a podcast. They wanted a podcast so badly that they VC'd they were into it. People will always like audio stories. Yeah. I think it's like you're trying to fight the earth. You're trying to fight gravity. You cannot fight the fact that some people, especially when we're getting inundated with video more than ever, I think more people will intentionally choose not to use their eyes to look at video and want audio only stories.
I mean, I usually listen to podcasts when I'm like on a walk or washing the dishes or making lunch or whatever. And maybe sometimes I do this with the Colin and Samir podcast, which I like to watch. They teach me a lot about creator stuff. I have a spice rack above like my kitchen counter and I'll put it on the spice rack while I'm like making lunch and I'll watch like 10, 15 minutes of it. But then once I'm eating my lunch, I'm probably like looking out the window and just listening to it.
Tech guys, and we're seeing this more and more with the way the world works, tech guys just are trying to fight humanity. They try to fight the way humans like stuff. Yeah. So I just don't think they're ever going to convince everyone that audio stories are stupid. The evolved form of video, the evolved form of audio is video. You just can't do it. Yeah. It's impossible.
No, I agree. I mean, for this podcast, my initial instinct was like, I don't want to do video. It's too much. I'll have to like be presentable. Yeah. I don't even know if it'll work, etc. It's hard to control guests. I mean, you've got great video, but I've had people on who make YouTube videos, and have amazing, beautiful setups. But then on the podcast, they just show up not with that amazing setup.
Unprepared,
And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, well, maybe they don't respect this show, or they don't, maybe they just think a podcast is something else. But it's just something that it's hard to control. But all that being said,
I want to say I 100% agree with you.
yeah,
I struggle with this all the time. I want to put my best foot forward. If I'm a podcast professional, the least I can do is bring all of my expertise to this.
exactly.
So I'm with you, but I feel everything you just said, I think about all the time.
Well, I was advised to do it and put it on YouTube for distribution, and I was given the resources to buy a nice camera. So that makes the decision a bit easier, and I don't regret it. It's taught me a new skill. I think probably today we're gonna break 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which it's taken almost a year, but we didn't even have proper video for like the first 6 months, whatever. But I don't regret it. But I agree that it's a different thing. And just this week, as we record this on my other podcast, Tasteland, our guest was sick, and so was camera off. And it was a great episode. And I have to wonder, like, me and my co-hosts were both camera on, but I have to wonder, was this episode partially better because our guest was camera off, and that freed up her vibe? I don't know, but maybe.
I think the thing that you have done really well on the show, but also is very difficult because it is very fragile, is when you set up a pipeline for content.
Mm-hmm.
If one thing breaks, then it all breaks. Like, that video is going to look really weird uploading it to YouTube.
Yeah.
And we do upload our video. We do upload our podcast to YouTube, but it's like, it's just like an image with the audio,
which is what we do for Tasteland, my other podcast too. And it's like, we fully ignore that. Kind of, we just put it up there and don't really think about it. Some weeks, I think this last week, we got like 150 listens across the archive there. People are still doing it. But it's
no, I'm with you though. But it's like, I care about podcasts, so I play in the podcast space. It's not just about the art; it's about the tech. I upload it to YouTube because I can, motherfucker. Yeah. That's why RSS feeds are wonderful. I once described the RSS feed as ancient, and my co-teacher was like, "Why did you call it ancient? You don't like it?" I'm like, "No, it's ancient. Like quinoa is ancient. Like the pulley is ancient."
I mean, what? It's like is it more than a quarter century old? Can we say that?
I think that's 100% true. Yeah. Or at least it's coming up on.
We can speak of it in terms of partial centuries, to be sure.
Yeah, and like that's why it's good. It's like you can't mess with this.
Yeah.
So I can put it on whatever platform I want. The thing I like about podcasting, and the reason why I don't want to be a YouTuber, and also why I dabbled in streaming, but it's a similar issue, is that it's on a singular platform and has some sort of algorithmic nonsense.
The walled garden.
That gets messed with by the corporate overlords. Mm-hmm. But like podcasting's greatest weakness, which is discovery, is also its greatest strength towards like future proofing itself.
Mm-hmm.